Why from the CFR, I know that that's why it's strategically put together by the current president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to, show more interest when it comes to Ghana's foreign policy. Why is it so important that a country or every country pays so much attention when it comes to, is strategically done when it comes to its foreign policy? Why? Is it a make or break situation?
The point is that every country must pay attention to foreign policy. After all, it's just an extension of domestic policy. And whatever you want to do is either towards achieving a certain objective back home. So foreign policy that you design is like, if we talk about economic diplomacy in Ghana, it is designed to assist government achieve a certain objective by focusing more domestic policy into the international arena. As I said earlier, if you go out there to promote what you call a belligerent posture, definitely you know that it is going to bounce back on you. So every country makes a conscious effort about what it wants to achieve in the international arena, such that it will benefit the people, not decimate its people. So we also, what we do is that we are going to, from next year, when hopefully COVID or no COVID, we are going to start the second phase of our engagement with the Ghanaian public through our association with the Ghanaian media houses.
Awesome.
We are trying to organize all kinds of seminars in order to educate people of
so bringing diplomacy to
the media
and then engaging the public
to the public. So that's one of our objectives now. And but talking about the diaspora and their relations with officials and the missions, first thing, even in the passport, it is written that when you go out, report yourself to the, or at least register in the embassy. How many Ghanaians do that? They don't. Most of them.
That is a problem.
Most of them don't want to have anything to do with the missions until they have a problem.
Then again, it's because maybe we do not know or we don't understand the benefits of having to do that. Immediately you arrive in any country.
It's even in the passport.
Yeah, not everybody reads. That's the problem, unfortunately.
In other places that I know, Ghanaians go, and one of the first things they decide to do is to flash their passports. In that situation, they don't want to have anything to do with officialdom. So they stay away until they are accosted by the police, and then they start telling stories and things, So it is important that every Ghanaian understands that the embassy or the High Commission is there to protect Ghanaians.
It's for their well-being.
And to ensure their well-being. So it is not just good to say that I have arrived there, I've got my papers, I don't want this and I don't want that. Eventually, it becomes necessary for you to use the services of the mission. Whether you have acquired the citizenship of another country or not, if you have, you will still require a visa to come to Ghana. And the law does not discriminate as to whether you were a Ghanaian before you handed over your citizenship and all that. So it is important that we make it understood that the embassies have been established not only to
for visa purposes,
not for only visa purposes, but also all kinds of consular services, all kinds of activities on behalf of government. Therefore, people should go there, register, and get lost.
All right.
When they get into trouble, the embassy will come to their aid.
Right. Well said. Thank you. Now, Echi, let me ask you, let's look at the principles and practices of Ghana's foreign policy. Is it always the same? What has been spelled out and what we do on the ground, is it the same thing? Is it the same thing?
Let me make a quick comment on the Joe Biden thing.
Right. Which we will be talking extensively on that.
You need to know that there are big players and then there are small fries, you know. Then you may have different types of governments. We have a federal government where power resides with, you know, the regions and the provinces and the states, as against the federal government itself, where the authority will come in the area of foreign policy. So the American president, we see him within his own country. The state governors decide, the state legislatures decide, the state judiciary decide whatever they want to do within their states. He has no authority. But when it comes to foreign policy, that is where you see him making, you know, a lot of noise, if you like. So it's quite a different scenario when you have a small country like Ghana. It is huge in West Africa. When you come to Africa or you come to the world, it's a very small player. So, you know. Now, the thing with Ghana's foreign policy, we all know that if you go back to Kwame Nkrumah's time,
right,
he made it clear that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa. So what presidents say become policy, you know, and that is what he wanted. Total liberation of Africa and African unity were things that he wanted to pursue. If you remember when Dr. Buzia took over, there was this apartheid issue, and he was also talking about dialogue. We want to have dialogue. He said, no, these are people who don't listen. You have to take up arms and fight them. Stop this dialogue thing to help us. You know, that also came and passed. You remember Champon's Yentwa? That was his policy. He also said, we won't pay. I mean, these are bad debts and the rest. That's a foreign policy that he put out there. But since 1992, the Constitution appears to have, you know, stated or captured the principles that we have to follow, like Article 40, that in its dealings with other nations, the government shall A, promote and protect the interests of Ghana, B, seek the establishment of a just and equitable international economic and social order, promote respect for international law, treaty obligations, and settlement of international disputes by peaceful means. D, adhere to the principles enshrined in, or as the case may be, the aims and ideals of 1, the Charter of the UN, the Charter of the OAU, the Commonwealth, the Treaty of ECOWAS, any other international organizations of which Ghana is a member. This is a constitutional provision. There are 73 international relations. Government of Ghana shall conduct its international affairs in consonance with the accepted principles of public international law and diplomacy in a manner consistent with the national interests of Ghana. The President shall, act in consultation with Council of State, appoint persons to represent Ghana abroad. The President may receive envoys accredited to Ghana. The President may execute or cause to be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana, etc. And then these, you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration that sees to some of these things. So somehow the policies have even been captured by our Constitution for us, but we can always improve upon it, because if you read in between the lines, if you talk of international relations, you talk of Ghana's best interest and the rest, they are all things that you can improve upon.
All right.
You know, so we have over the years. So that's why when you go to every mission, we have different divisions. So you can have trade and investment, for example. You can have diaspora affairs. and education. You can have public political desk, you know, and you can have consular services. You can have public relations. You can have a whole trade attaché, you know, who is working. And you can have also military attaché and all that. So these are various divisions. When you bring them together, they will be doing these policies and that have been captured in the Constitution, and the president himself swears by the Constitution to uphold, you know, the Constitution. So he should not be seen to be doing other things.
All right,
of course, with time, when cases go to court, for example, as to whether the Gitmo 2 or something could just be a treaty without any ratification by Parliament. You know, that went to court. The Supreme Court said, no, all these treaties must have to be ratified. So you have to send them to Parliament. You just don't sign and then you think it's a done deal. So the Supreme Court has thrown light on what it means to enter into treaties on behalf of the states. That you don't do it alone. Make sure that you bring it to Parliament.
Would you say Ghana is deriving the full benefits when it comes to its foreign policy?
It depends. It depends. I mean, because as I said, there are so many areas. For example, you remember the president went into some kind of agreement with La Côte d'Ivoire head of state about our cocoa and how best we can derive benefits. That is a move, international move. You know, that is done. And now, I was reading something about the two again saying that an American company that determines something should no longer do that and the rest. That is cooperation and collaboration, you know, with others. So you could, through your, I mean, look at was it Mali or recently the problem we have in one of those West African countries about coup, and they had to go in, they brought in people
for mediation and all that.
And then it did, you know. So it all depends. Unfortunately, like they spoke about the closure of the border, you know, Nigeria also say, well, Nigeria first. You know, you can't import all kinds of things into our country. We are trying to produce our local rice. And yet people are importing so much rice into the country that we don't seem to be seeing, are we clear? Are we making any savings from increasing rice production? So we want to take a step, you know. So they say, well, Nigeria first, close the border, and let's see where those...
Nigeria first. Nigeria first.
The same, that is what we said. We also said Ghana first. Is it in the interest of your state to take a particular decision? You know, but you cannot isolate yourself, and that's a problem with Trump. You know, so everybody talks about their countries first. Is it in the interest of their country? Yes, but then if you say you like going it alone, and you can do like what pleases you because you have nuclear powers. And
so Trump was not wrong after all for perceiving America
what I read to you, it's
foreign policy, right? All right, interesting. Now we have 2 days to the elections. December 7th, Monday, we are going to the polls to elect a leader and, of course, parliamentarians as well. Should Ghana's foreign policy influence the voters' choice? Given the fact that it hasn't received so much attention, though, we've taken it upon ourselves to elaborate further and make people, you know, relate to Ghana's foreign policy.
Precisely. In the ideal world, it should. In other places, foreign policy is a big issue in their political debates.
The roads is part of foreign policy, right? The healthcare is part of foreign policy.
Yeah. Here, it is the other way around. People prefer to be told what precisely economic benefits they are going to derive. How we are going to fix roads here, what hospital are we going to build there, more than foreign policy.
And we have grants coming in for the
We
roads and
have
all
grants,
that.
but
And that's all part of foreign policy.
It is. Unfortunately, grants come in not as a result of people's interest or understanding of how it is going to be, but because when the government gets power, it goes to his friends and talks to them. Can you help me with this? Can you do this for me? And all that. The ordinary person wouldn't be bothered at that stage about whatever it is that you are talking about.
Even though that trickles down to
So it
them.
trickles down, but as I was saying, it should be a factor, but it is generally ignored. But let me come to the political parties themselves. If you look at the manifestos, tell me what amount of space is granted to foreign policy or foreign relations in the manifesto. It's a tiny bit of it. Yeah, shows that the kind of emphasis that it deserves, even within the political party manifestos, is downplayed. Not consciously or whatever, but at least this is what it is.
All right. So let me come to you. We are wrapping up. Unfortunately, we don't have time, so we need to wrap up. Check. What do you say about the fact that we are not paying so much attention to our foreign policy as part of the key things that the ordinary voter would consider important?
Thank you very much. I think the esteemed panelists here have done a lot of justice to the question. I will add my 2 bits. I believe that the conversation must be elevated. And when I say the conversation must be elevated, you made mention of an expert team being put together by Joe Biden.
Yes.
That is the case in Ghana all the time. When the government gets into power, whatever they want to emphasize in the principles that HE outlined over here, they always put together a solid team. And the Foreign Service Ministry, they have a core, solid couple of guys over there. The whole team there, they are very, very solid. Like HE mentioned about his deputy, who used to be the head of the Africa desk. I've had a couple of dealings with him, solid guy. What we need to do is to elevate the conversation about implementation. For example, the Year of Return is a foreign policy initiative. The government of Ghana went out and told the diaspora to come back home. We all lived in this country and raked in tons of millions of dollars from the Year of Return. From those who live around the castle in Cape Coast who make the beads, to the hotels who made a lot of money.
We made good money.
We made good money from it. But if you ask anybody whether that's a foreign policy initiative, the layman does not know that.
Exactly.
So the conversation about the implementation must be elevated. Another point that one can use to increase the participation is in terms of feedback. In management terms, we call it a feedback loop. What are people saying about the product? So for instance, when it comes to diaspora, HE made mention of the diaspora or Ghanaians not really caring about coming to the mission except to throw their weight around.
The services.
Only the services. And even that, they come in as and when. That could be a challenge because they have not been looped into the conversation. For instance, the IMO did a research and realized that in Germany, the diaspora in Germany, their biggest challenge was pensions. How to get their pensions into Ghana when they have retired and they paid all their pensions there. If they were in the conversation about solutions that the missions could provide for them and said, hey, this is what we want to do. When the solutions are provided by HE and his team at the mission, they would be running to get in and take advantage. But I think the challenge has been that we sit here and we craft the policy, which is good because it comes from a point of law. It comes from a point of experience. But looping in the citizenry, in this specific case, the diaspora, as to what their challenges are, what services that could be provided.
We need to rope them in.
To rope them in would make the conversation on more elevated. That is just my 2 pieces to add to what the illustrious mentioned.
Right, Your Excellency. I'll come back to you. We'll take our last word for December 7 Monday.
You see, it's not very easy to engage the diaspora this is because I did well. They can tell you about my open door policy. But the point is, people are working, and they work around the clock. And it's not like Ghana 8 to 4, 8 to 5. No, you work hours. So this guy finishes his 8.
You move to the next assignment.
Some work 2 or 3 jobs. You want to invite them for a meeting, you think they have time for you?
No, they don't. All right.
So sometimes it is not because of want of trying, but you invite and they are so busy doing their work, you know. So it's not that people don't want them to know, but they simply don't even have the time.
We need to make them appreciate the conversation. So I'm sure we will look at ways and means of having them, get more involved. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming through. So my guest for today's edition of Diplomatic Affairs, I've had Ambassador Kwame Tenkrine, the Secretary to the Council for Foreign Relations, the CFR, and also a career diplomat, and of course, Mr. Chepluche, who works with the Institute of International Affairs, Ghana. Also, thank you very much for coming through. And His Excellency Joseph Ayikwe Otu, Ghana's High Commissioner to Canada. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming through today's show. We really appreciate your time. Well, you have heard them tell you why it is important we protect the peace that we are enjoying, and we have a legacy to protect. And like I always say, we are not in to disappoint anybody. The world is watching. We don't want any surprises at the end of the day. Let's behave. Just go peacefully, cast your vote. When you're done, move to your house. And remember, we are counting ballots and not bullets this elections. My name is Harriet Nati. I will see you same time next week. Have a good evening.